because when I checked the table in my garden, you know, suddenly there was the measure would go up very far. This Geiger meter I used after Chernobyl, it was adjusted for German atomic laboratories, and at 20 counts per second there would be an optic and sound signal that the laboratory should be emptied and sanitized. And I had to turn those things off, because even 1 year after Chernobyl, indoors and outdoors, the signal was there. It was always over 20. And what I don't know is what was the normal level before 1945, before we started spreading, because now normal radioactivity is often counted as including the pollution of all the tests and the daily
but I have to tell you that in the time I've been doing it, because I had a very good Geiger counter which was bought for me by the Irish government in 1998, and in the whole time since 1998 to now, it's gone up by about 50%. It's gone up.
It's still going up.
It's still going up.
Of course.
Oh dear. Well, anyway,
it was sort of nothing 50 years ago.
No.
It was zero 50 years ago.
No, it wasn't zero, because there's always a bit.
No.
You know.
But when I went in the underground, it could go down to 3 or 5, something like that.
Right.
But under the drain pipes from the roofs of Stockholm, it would go up to 3,000. Yeah. And when I put it through the X-ray machine of the airport, it went out to 1,500. So it was double level of the X-ray machines of the airport. And then I also traveled, so I saw that it was actually a bit more north of Stockholm, but
so what
not.
Did you got 30,000 in Stockholm.
No, 3,000 under the hose pipe.
About 3. Then. Normally about 3 in the under.
Probably something like that.
Okay, so that's 1,000 times after practice.
Yeah,
I think that.
And also another comparison that radioactive watch from the 1950s would give around 200, and that was around that level all over my car. I got this thing 10 days, I think, after Chernobyl, or if it was even more. So it probably could have been more.
You know, the HELCOM data which we got shows us that we've got enormous amounts of radioactivity in the Baltic Sea, enormous. And we took a scintillation detector down into Latvia along the coast there. And we got a very big peak from cesium-137 this year. This year, it's still there.
In the summer.
Yeah.
And that is Chernobyl, as far as you can understand.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But there were some news people said a few days ago, which was in other parts of the world, and which then one wonders, is high levels. Is it Fukushima puffing more things, or might there be something else happening somewhere in the world?
I think it is Fukushima. I think it's too much of a coincidence that recently there was a big increase in xenon-135 reported by TEPCO, and xenon-131 reported by TEPCO, and everyone was saying, oh, you know, it means that the reactor's still burning and so forth. But of course, xenon-131 is the daughter of iodine-131, but they didn't mention iodine-131. Okay, nobody said, oh, that we found a load of iodine-131. They said we found a load of xenon-131. See, but it's the daughter product. So and then suddenly, about 10 days later or 7 days later, they start saying, oh, we found a load of iodine-131 in Europe. You see. Now, to me, that seems to be very, very coincidental. That you've got a load of xenon-131 and iodine-131 suddenly in Fukushima, and then the next thing is you find it in Europe. And now they're saying, oh, it was when somebody made a mistake when we were refueling some German reactors in southern Germany, and they released a load of iodine. That's the story.
Well, that's if that was true, it's a serious story, isn't it?
I suppose so. But anyway, it's a much more serious story that this thing is, because from the ratio of the xenon isotopes, and I actually did this because I took the TEPCO ratio, I took the TEPCO measurements and made the ratio. You can show that 15 hours before the measurement was made, no, 48 hours before the measurement was made, that was a fission accident, a fission occurred.
I think that after the accident in Fukushima, they sometimes said measurements of iodine, and I reflected, well, that's the value that gives the lowest one, because it's in a week most of it is gone. So
Yeah, gone.
so that they get, but still those numbers were very serious. And then if you know that the ratio of strontium and cesium will then be 100 times worse.
I'm measuring all that. They send me all these samples from Japan.
And I mean, what about the water currents of the seas?
Well, that will just deposit the cesium up and down the coast.
Yes, but I mean, won't it spread? How long time will it take to spread around the whole world in the seas?
I don't think it will. I mean, the sea is very big. I don't think that that's a problem. The problem will be fish that are caught and then exported, and mostly it'll be shellfish along the coast of.
But there are these currents going all over the world, back and forth to the.
Sure, yeah. No, well, it will contaminate. It'll certainly contaminate the oceans, but the levels will be very small, and I don't think that they will constitute a harmful route. For me, the most important route is inhalation.
Yeah.
You see,
but I find that many resistors to atomic power don't know that there is the concentration in the food chains of radioactive materials, just as it is with PCB and mercury and DDT. So that was actually what made me, when I was 17 years old, around 1963, to turn against nuclear power, because I saw the numbers from the river outside Hanford, and if they put the small level in the river of radioactivity to number 1, when it came up to the yolk, the yellow of the egg of the prey birds, it was 1/2 million times more radioactive.
Yeah, sure.
And of course already in the fish it was 10,000 times and so on. So this is also that the they say it's so little so it doesn't matter, but then we have to multiply it with 1,000 times, or in this case even 500,000 times.
We know about this from Sellafield. I mean, huge amount of stuff went from Sellafield into the Irish Sea, and and it's measured every year in the fish.
Could you elaborate? What were sort of measures before the atomic industry era?
Well, zero.
That's what I said, and you said no, it wasn't.
No. This is in terms of these isotopes like cesium and so on, is zero.
Yeah.
In terms of background radiation like this, then you've got cosmic rays and you've got some gamma radiation coming off from the ground.
In Sweden after Chernobyl, the official measurements of radioactivity was made 1 meter over the ground.
Yeah.
And my qualified guess is that we were used to the radioactivity trapped in the rocks, and they hit a 2 meter long man, an average 1 meter from the ground. But this was not the type of radiation we got from Chernobyl. No. So if I held the Geiger meter 1 meter over the ground, it would sometimes only be 100 part of what it was on the soil. And when we walk in the soil, this is turned up, and we are breathing it in, and it also, as you say, can go through.
The National Radiological Protection Board made a map in 1986 of grids all over the United Kingdom, and they coloured these grids according to the background radiation, gamma radiation, 1 meter above the ground. Yeah, and the average level above the ground is about 40 microsieverts per hour. About 40 microsieverts
Which year?
per hour. This was about 1989, 90.
But that is after Chernobyl.
After Chernobyl, yeah, sure. But a lot of Chernobyl didn't fall in southern England. You know, the rain was mostly in Wales and in Scotland and Yorkshire. They didn't have very much Chernobyl radiation in southern England. The cloud really didn't go there. But anyway, the point is that at that time it was about 30 to 40 nanosieverts per hour. Now, if I go out with my Geiger counter and measure it, it's 180 nanosieverts per hour. Okay? So something very odd has happened in the last 10, 15 years.
And this was before Fukushima.
Yeah, before Fukushima, that's right.
Mm.
And I brought a case against Hinkley Point on the basis of that. You know, the way they're building this new nuclear power station, they had to produce a report to say that there was a certain amount of radioactivity there, because the law says that they can't have more than a certain amount of radioactivity there for the workers, you see. And so they said, oh, it's 50 nanosieverts per hour. And I thought, well, that's a bit funny, it can't be right. So I went down there with Rosa, with my daughter, and 2 Geiger counters, and I measured it, and it was 180 to 250 nanosieverts per hour. So first of all, that means that the old power station has been contaminating the ground there. But secondly, it means that something else has been
150 to
150 to 250
yeah.
is what I measured. And I've actually made a video of this. So I've got Rosa with the camera videoing me measuring it with the Geiger counter and a GPS that tells
And this
us
is
the
far
coordinates.
from the reactor. It's in the kilometers away from it.
No, this is in a field about 200-300 meters away, where they're going to build a new nuclear power station. Yeah, but I mean, you can measure these levels quite far away. It's not just there. You know, if you go a kilometer away, you still get these levels, 150 nanosieverts per hour.
It means actually no one should work there.
That's right. But that's why they had to keep the levels low, and I had to pretend that the levels were low. You see, because their own law says that they can't have people working there.
Yeah.
I know, it's just completely balmy, the whole business. And I don't know what's causing it. I really don't know what's causing it, but I suspect it's Fallujah, it's Iraq. I think that they dropped enormous amounts of radioactivity in the form of uranium. Somebody has said 3,500 tons of uranium in these new uranium weapons that dropped in Iraq in Gulf War.
Yeah,
Gulf
I
War
heard
II.
2,000 tons the first year.
Well, if you imagine if all of that's been turned into an aerosol and then floats all around.
But that's only Iraq, and Iraq, I think that the United States have admitted that they used this, but there's total silence. They don't admit what has happened in Afghanistan, and I mean, if they tried to melt themselves into the mountains where Bin Laden was with a half-ton bombs, my guess is that there was a lot of uranium in those bombs.
In fact, there was a guy called Mohammed something or another who measured the urine concentrations of uranium, and Ted Wayman did that in people in hospital there, and they got enormously high levels of uranium in the urine, but it wasn't depleted uranium. That was the problem, you see. That's why this thing that they're attacking me about is so important, because I believe that since for a long time now they haven't been using depleted uranium, they've been using either natural or enriched uranium just to cover their back.
And we don't know why. It must be that there's some effect in the weapon that can't be reached with depleted.
Or it could just be that they want to cover their backs, you know, in some way, that they just don't have to have some way in which you can check up on them.
Or that they have scrapped so many old atomic weapons that they don't bother whether it's depleted or enriched uranium.
So if that's the case, what they will have done is they will have taken the enriched uranium warheads and melted them into the depleted uranium to make a sort of mixture, which is slightly enriched, you know, which is just about makes it legal.
Because one heard very long ago that Israel had used enriched uranium in I think Lebanon, was it? Or
that was that. We found that. We did that. And that was no question about that, because we had 2 different laboratories checking it. And one of the laboratories was my friend David Assender at the University of Wales Institute of Oceanography in Anglesey. And he uses a very sophisticated method using alpha spectrometry, and he got the same results as the results they got from Harwell. So these are 2 separate laboratories using 2 different techniques who got both the same results. And after that he was sacked. His laboratory was shut down, all his equipment was sold.
Typical.
3 weeks after that report, he was kicked out. So there you are. Don't give them a bad time, or you might lose your job.
Or please do. Don't give up and give the world some truth.
Yeah, sure. Anyway, I don't have a job, so I don't have to worry.